We are bringing you this recorded video this morning. We've been doing this on the YouTube channel, so that way we can place it in different places, Instagram and Facebook, and any other places we get a chance to put this video. We can do it. We are still talking about our topic. Our main topic is still talking about maintaining justice. From the Holy Quran, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Allah commands justice. He commands justice. And Allah says that when you judge between people, judge with fairness. When you judge between people, you have to judge with fairness. And so, as we continue our discussion on maintaining justice, we say to the protesters, continue to keep your protests up against injustice, against oppression, against institutionalized racism. That's the main focus of the protest. It's not an individual, not an organization, but the three main things is, as we said, social injustice, oppression, and institutionalized racism. Anyone who has just come to America, have been in America for a while, this is the problem that black people face. And this has nothing to do with racism. It has nothing to do with any of those terms that people may come up with. It has nothing to do with that, but it's a reality. And if America and this system had been just and had shown some kind of fairness towards black people, then these situations that we're having today's time, where black people are constantly being murdered by these racist police departments, and I can say racist police departments because that's what they are. Anyone that knows the history in America, and oftentimes I say this to people, that look, before you go to speaking about America, before you go to speaking about anything about American history, make sure that you understand, you know the history of what has happened here. Now, I can't speak about racism in another country or another part of the world, only what I see and what I hear. But I can speak about America because this is where I was born and raised at. And so I've seen the social injustice. I've seen the oppression. I've seen the institutionalized racism in America. And when you have a system that's is built on, when you have a system that's at the root of that system, this is what El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, Malcolm X talked about. At the root of this system, capitalist, at the root of this system, it doesn't make any difference what president you get. It can be Democrat, it can be Republican. At the root of the system is social injustice, is oppression and institutionalized racism. And anyone that has been here for a while, maybe for a short time, maybe for a long time, you should know that this whole protest, this whole movement that's been going on, that is still continuing to go on, it's against social injustice. It's against institutionalized racism. It's against oppression. That's what it's against. See? No individual, no organization, because it's bigger than that. The bigger scale, the bigger picture is we're dealing with a system. At the root of the system, if you go down and dig a tree up, in order to get the tree out of the ground, I mean really get it out of the ground, you have to go dig and get all the roots out. America has never got all the roots of social injustice, oppression, and institutionalized racism. The root of that is still there in the foundation. That's why we continue to have these problems of black men, women, boys, girls, kids being murdered, having guns drawn on them, harassed, beat up, brutalized, you name it. because at the root of the foundation of this system that we call America, this system of capitalism, is nothing but social injustice, is nothing but oppression, it is nothing but institutionalized racism. That is the three biggest problems Brother Malcolm talked about. This was America's problem, and that's what it is, and it's still today as we speak. So I'm saying to people before they go to speaking and talking about anything, if you cannot acknowledge the root of this system, capitalist system, if you cannot acknowledge that America, as it stands right today, June 18, 2020, the problem with America is the oppression, social injustice, and institutionalized racism at every level. And the root of it, the root of the foundation is where the problem is at. You can't fix a problem by putting a Band-Aid on the surface. You got to go to the root of the problem in order to fix it. See? You can't, because if you're putting a Band-Aid on the surface, all you're doing is just putting a substitute there for a short time. Eventually the Band-Aid is going to fall off, it's going to deteriorate, and nothing is going to be done. So that's what I wanted to say about this. The other part of this is too, is that as we continue to talk about maintaining justice, see, the only way you can maintain justice is when you judge people. There has to be fairness. And America has not shown any kind of fairness towards black people in this country, period. Straight across the board. Because the oppression is so ingrained in this system. The social injustice is so ingrained in this system. The institutionalized racism is ingrained in the foundation of America. That's where it's at. Look, here we are still having black men being hung. I mean, lynched, you know? That's what we still having going on. Just here, the last couple of days, we saw in California, 50 miles apart, 2 black men were found hanging, had been lynched, you know, lynching. That's what we call it. You could say hung, lynching. See, this is the same thing that happened back in the 1940s, the 1950s. Black men, women, black children, boys and girls were lynched, was hung. See, it was like a spectacle, like a show or something. That's what it was. We had a young sister who was a social activist in the movement for social movement against social injustice and oppression and institutionalized racism. She was found murdered in Tallahassee, Florida, 19 years of age. This sister was a social activist against social injustice, against oppression, against institutionalized racism. She was found murdered. And everyone knows that behind these murders, like it was in the past, behind these murders was this whole level of white supremacy. Everybody knows that. You know, when they say suicide, that's a quick way of not investigating. That's a quick way of shutting the case up. I'm saying to the communities out there where those 2 brothers were found hanging, to that young sister in Tallahassee, Florida, to the family members, to organizations. You know, first and foremost, any kind of footage from the cameras, these people will take those footage and they'll try to delete everything that's on there to show what happened. A young man who was found hanging in a school parking lot in Texas, a young black man found hanging in a parking lot. Now, don't tell me that they don't have footage, they don't have cameras on the street. But see, what happened is these street security cameras, oftentimes these people get a hold to those cameras and they delete everything that's there so it won't show who did it. Because if you have any kind of street cameras up, you have any kind of security cameras up, any kind of footage, it's going to show exactly what happened. what happens oftentimes, these people get to those security footage cameras and delete because they don't want it to show what happened, what went on, who did it. See, I'm saying in the case of this young sister in Tallahassee, Florida, in the case of these two brothers who were found hanging in California, this young brother who was found hanging in a parking lot in Texas, the autopsies oftentimes, they work with the state when it comes to really doing an autopsy and really telling exactly what happened and what was the cause of death. Oftentimes, the autopsies, they will coincide with the state. And I don't know why we be so shocked or be surprised that these people do this stuff. I do not, I repeat myself, I do not put nothing past these people doing whatever it is to do, because they did everything in creation. They did it. And to somehow think that they won't do certain things, then I don't know what planet or what time zone you're living in, because these people would do anything when it comes to covering up murder, when it comes to murdering black people. You name it, and the sky's the limit for them, they'll do it. So any kind of autopsy, I would say to family members, organization, friends, get an outside person to do the autopsy, not the state, because all the state is going to do is they're going to cover up whatever the findings is, they're going to cover it up. Get an outside autopsy from some other doctor outside from the state. And these, as far as these security street footage cameras, most times they will delete what's on the cameras, because once they check them, if that's not done real soon and there's a lapse in time, they have time to delete, they have time to remove those cameras and delete them and act as if nothing was there and nothing was seen. This whole idea of when they say suicide, that's the quickest way to shut a case down. That's the quickest way to prevent any kind of investigation. But what has to happen is, in these cases, people have to have private investigators to investigate these cases. Get a separate autopsy, not one from the state, a separate one. See? Because this is the kind of, in these things that I'm talking about, in the autopsy, in the street cameras, in the footage, this is the kind of institutionalized racism I'm talking about, where it's ingrained in this. It's ingrained in all these areas we're talking about, where the state and all these people work together. This is the systematic institutionalized racism in this system. This is it. See, when you talk about street cameras, when you talk about security footage and showing what happened, when you talk about autopsies, all of this has to do with the authorities and the releasing of evidence. This is where the institutionalized racism comes into play at. This is it. But we have to demand. See, we have to demand, not ask, we have to demand. And if people don't want to work at that level, then this is where the protests, this is where the rallies. You take the protests, you take the rallies to those people's house. Take it to their front door, take it to their steps, take it in their yard, wherever they stay at. This is how you apply pressure, because this is where the institutionalized racism comes into play. When we have these kind of cover-ups that take place, and they take place all the time, we shouldn't be shocked, we shouldn't be surprised about it, because it happens all the time. And once again, we say in the lynching of this brother, this young brother in Texas, that was found in the school parking lot, the two brothers in California, 50 miles apart, the young sister who was murdered in Tallahassee, Florida, a young sister who was an activist, social activist. All of these situations, they cover them up, and this is where the ingrained institutionalized racism is in the foundation of this system, because the cover up, the lying, and all the things that go on, this is part of the authorities not releasing the footage, not having a proper autopsy where they go along with the state, or they coincide and share information. All of this is institutionalized racism. And so at the root of the problems in America, once again, It's in the foundation of institutionalized racism, which is at the foundation of everything that we're talking about. Once again, this video has been maintaining justice. Last but not least, people need to be real secure about their travel. You know, real secure. I would advise, as I remind myself, I would advise people, if you go into the police station to file a complaint, anywhere in situations like that, you should always carry some people with you, not going by yourself. Traveling by yourself, you should always have travel with some people, nowhere by yourself, nighttime, daytime. It's just good to do. Security wise, we have to be aware of our surroundings at all times. We really should be aware of our surroundings all the time. Talk to our kids, talk to our boys, talk to our girls, talk to our young people. We have to be aware of our surroundings all the time, because we're living in the time no different than it was in 1940, 1950, 1960. We have the white supremacist groups out here, and so many of them have infiltrated into these police departments. So we have to be aware of our surroundings at the time. Once again, this is Brother Jamal. I wanted to bring you this video. Inshallah, we'll continue to try to bring you videos at this level